Hello, Chill Computer Guy. Welcome to the new Deep Studio. We're still under construction here, but the important thing is we're underground. We're actually, I guess, have a window down here, but it's kind of dug into the side of the house, and we have a window. And let me tell you, there was some sunlight coming in the window earlier today. It was quite nice. Now it's like 10 o'clock at night, so the sun's gone down. Been working in the yard, got a lot of yard work done today, which felt great. It was a really, really nice day out. It was, I think it was 82 degrees. But I got a lot of yard work done, which, like I say, feels great to get that stuff done. Had a couple of spare minutes here in the evening, so I figured I would sit down and make a quick video. And today I figured we're in Bitwig 3, by the way, and Bitwig 3 has some real subtlety, just subtle things. It's a beta, and I'm not going to talk about Bitwig 3 as much as I am just fundamentals as far as music production goes. But let me tell you, with Bitwig 3, there's a lot of little subtle things, very meticulous things going on with the UI, and just little, that makes it just really, really a pleasure to work in. I actually have been working exclusively in Bitwig 3, the beta, and I went back to 2.5 to work on some projects the other day, and I was like, geez, it felt like a little old, a little dusty. So the new things are really, really cool here in Bitwig 3. But like I say, this tutorial is not about Bitwig 3. This video is not about Bitwig 3. What we're going to talk about today is making a beat. Imagine that. Whoa, making a beat. How many videos are there about making a beat? But what we're going to talk about is just like how to go about doing it, how to like start a beat, how to just make a beat. And as this process is my big thing, I always preach is minimalism is king. It's all about minimalism. What we have here is we have a couple of tracks. First off, this is my new template right here. And this is the clip launcher, but it's a horizontal clip launcher. So here's your arranger right here. So if you want to arrange your track, you bring that over here. And that's a beautiful thing. But you can put that away and just have the clip launcher. And it's a horizontal clip launcher. And what's great about this is it's just a place to kind of brainstorm and put together ideas in the form of MIDI clips, as far as sound design, as far as music theory, putting MIDI notes together. How about a 16-bar single note, but fed through an arpeggiator? How about a very complex chord progression? How about some beats over here? How about some top line kind of melody here? What you just kind of the horizontal clip launcher is just the sweet spot as far as is getting your creative ideas down in this grid, basically, is what it is. My new kind of template now is just this. I got 8 scenes. I got 8. It's basically an 8x8 grid, 64 different MIDI grids, and then of course I add my send and returns in there. I always love the, if you're a fan of my channel, I love the send and returns. And so we got some reverb, some delays, some saturation down here, a little bit of parallel compression, and a little bit of decapitator in there. Of course, you click this button here, you can hide all those, but when you bring up your mix, once you're making your MIDI loops and working on your instruments, now you can use the send and return. And like if you think of music production is like kind of making let's say you're making a stew or a soup or something, the send and returns, that's like the spice. It's like you got to add some spice to it, and you can do that through the send and returns, and you can have as many as you want, which is really great. I always just put 8 on there. But I might add a few. But for now, this is kind of my new little template here, because that way I can jump in here, double click to create a MIDI lane there, and then just give it a double click, pull this up, and I'm off to the races. I'm able to put my my MIDI information in there, and then I can sound design on top of that. But like I say, today's video is about creating drum patterns, creating beats, basically, is what but drums specifically. So what we have here is we have a drum cube, and we have just 4 sounds loaded up. This is from the Hip Hop Genius sample pack from splice.com, of course. If you haven't already, check out splice.com. What you do is you pay basically, I think it's $7.99 a month. You get 100 samples a month. But it doesn't matter if you use just go there and dig through the sounds until you find something that works for the track, and you can download each individual. You basically get 100 credits a month for $7.99, and then that's 100 equates to 100 samples. How many times do you buy like a $20 sample pack and you only use a few samples from it? But Splice, you basically pay a monthly fee and you get credits, and you use those towards the samples you're actually going to use in your track. So it's a really, really cool way to do it. And so check out Splice for sure. But what we have here is minimalism is king. We only have 4 sounds here. We have a kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, and open hi-hat. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a drum pattern, if you will. All right, so double click, and that'll create a MIDI clip. And then if you double click it again, there it is right down there. As you can see, there are my 4 samples in the drum cube. And if you're seeing a keyboard, you just got to click this right here. That's going to show you only the occupied cells in the particular drum cube. Now, something that I highly recommend is go right up into here and go to settings, shortcuts, and type in grid. And you're going to get smaller beat grid and larger beat grid. Change these to shortcuts that you will remember. These are very, very useful shortcuts. I'm going to use the bracket keys because if you're familiar with, like Photoshop, you use the bracket keys to increase your brush size with your clone stamp tool or your adjustment brush and whatnot. And so I'm very familiar with the bracket keys, using those for a smaller. So what I've done is I've assigned those. The larger beat grid is the right bracket, and then the smaller beat grid is the left bracket. So what that'll do is that'll actually increase and decrease your MIDI grid just simply by hitting the bracket keys, and that's a super powerful, handy shortcut. Because the only other way is to come down here. You got to click there, and then you got to do it here, and it's just a massive pain in the ass, you know. Some DAWs, I'm not going to name them, you can just right click and pick your MIDI grid that way, which is really handy. But with Bitwig, you got to come clear down here and mess with this. So I highly suggest setting up those shortcuts. Just do it. I mean, if you want to pause the video right now and set up those shortcuts, I wouldn't blame you at all, because it's one of the first things I did here in Bitwig Studio when I installed the new Bitwig Studio. It's one of the first things I did is set up those shortcuts. Very, very useful. We're going to start off with 8th notes here, okay? Make sure your MIDI grid says 8th. And we're going to start out with a kick drum 4/4, okay? So that's basically 4 on the floor. Then we're going to put a snare drum on the 2 and the 4, like so. And then the hi-hats, we're going to put 8th note hi-hats. So go ahead and hit Control D. And so that's it. That's the most basic, straightforward beat imaginable. Let's go ahead and play that. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's really something. Now, if you're going to make a dance track, you'll probably bump this up to 127 BPM, take out all these hi-hats, and, you got your dance track, now you got your dance track. Oh, you'd probably move these up into open hi-hats as well. Okay, so that's your dance track. But we're not going to make a dance track today. We're going to make something like a hip hop type thing. So let's go ahead and put all those back like so. And let's bring this down to actually 95, okay? Bring the tempo down to 95. So it's a little bit slower. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase our beat grid to 16th notes. What we're going to do is we're going to add another kick drum right here, okay? But it's going to be a little long, so we're going to have to shorten it down. We're going to put it right there, okay? So what we have this extra kick drum, so it's going to be like a ba-boom, okay? Let's listen to that. Well, that's all right. But instead, what we're going to do, we still have 16th notes. So what we're going to do is we're going to add we're going to do 16th notes for this first and this second. Let's listen to that. Okay, but what we're going to do, we got that open hi-hat, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this as to a 16th note as well. So now we got a couple of 16th notes here, and then we have 8th notes. So we have 2 16ths, 3 8ths, 2 16, and then on that last little extra kick, we're going to give it a little hi-hat, a little flavor there at the end. Let's listen to this. Ooh. Okay, that sound. I like this direction here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the sweet chords with that and see how these sound together. Okay, well, I don't know about you, but I'm hearing a bass line in my head already. But what we're going to do is we're going to double this up. We're going to double the length of this. So basically, we're going to take this clip, and if you don't see these icons up here, go down here, and you want to thumbtack the X2, which is double content. You click on that, and now if you double click here, you see instead of a 1 bar, we have a 2 bar loop. And if you can't see that, all you got to do is just click on the clip up here, and it'll automatically fill the entire MIDI clip area with that. Now, something that I really is catching my ear is this little hi-hat here at the end. So what I want to do is I want to double that up, okay? So to do that, we're going to add a 16th note here. We're going to keep our snare. We don't want to mess with our snare right there. And we're going to add an extra one right there, okay? Let's listen to that. Okay, but wait, this is too straight, okay? I want some funk up in here, you know? So what we're going to do is we're going to go there. We'll put a boom there. We'll put a boom there. We're going to move that right there. And we're going to put a boom there with an extra hi-hat right here. And then we're actually going to switch that back to how it was without the open hi-hat. Now you end up with that open hi-hat on the upbeat and the downbeat, but check it out. We're going to go into double time. So how to do that is you're going to make sure you have your clip selected, and you're going to hit this button here, scale 200% right here. And what that's going to do is it's going to slow everything down. So now if you play this, it's going to sound really slow. So what you got to do to make it double time is double your tempo. So 95 and 95 is 190. Bam, okay? But you're like, okay, well, what's the point? Well, the point is when you start to add shuffle. So we're going to turn the shuffle on, and we're going to make sure this is on 8th note shuffle. Because we're giving it double time, so we want 8th note. 16th note shuffle, you're gonna barely notice because we're at double time. So you want 8th note shuffle. We're gonna crank this up to 70%. Okay, so we're kind of we're kind of going off the deep end as far as the funk right here, okay? So let's play this now. So that's it. We add a little spice. One more quick little thing before we go is if you click on any of these, you'll highlight all the notes in that lane. What we want to do is go to velocity and add a little chaos here, okay? And you can even pull up your velocity here so you can see what's going on with that. But what you're doing is you want to change up. You don't want all your hi-hats to hit at the same. You want to add a little chaos to the velocity there. More humanized, if you will. Same with the kick drum. A little bit, though. You know, you want to be very sparse with this. You don't want to give it too much. You can always manually adjust this. Like this one's a little high, and so that's going to be the first beat. So you may not want that high being the first beat. The lead-off kick will be a little hot, you know. So what I recommend is use this, you know, the velocity spectrum. And then also add some manual based on where you want your accents at. And then that'll give it a little bit more human feel. Also, one more quick little thing. Sometimes if the hi-hats are a little too loud, rather than going into the mixer and turning down the volume, go into your velocity. Again, use the spectrum and turn your mean down. Your mean is going to give you the average. Basically, it's going to make it so the average hi-hat's hitting a little less hard. And that'll maybe soften those hi-hats rather than using the volume. It's just a better way dynamically to do it, in my opinion. But that's it. Now what we got to do, we got to add some bass line, maybe some vocal melody, maybe some top line arpeggio, something, you know, catchy. You know, but what we got is we got kind of a funky, kind of like a lo-fi kind of thing going on there. But what we did is we started with a 4/4 on the kick drum, a 2 and a 4 on the snare, and eighth note hi-hats. And then once we had a 1-bar loop, then we went to 16th notes. We add a little kick drum here, maybe you know, chop a couple of those hi-hats from 8th notes to 16th notes. Use that open hi-hat as an accent. But we only started out, you know, we start out with 4 sounds, 4 samples in the drum cube, you know, in the drum machine. We just the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, and then the open hi-hat for the accent. It's all you need. Minimalism is king. Don't put a bunch of samples in there. Don't put you know, just and start out with a 4/4 with the kick drum. I know you're not going to make a dance track, but start out with a 4/4. It doesn't matter. You're not going to make a dance track. Start out with a 4/4 because you can anchor, you can tether all your stuff off that 4/4. Basically, if you start out with a 4/4, you put a 2/4 with a snare and 8th note hi-hats, and then kind of use that as kind of the beginning recipe of the beat, you know. Kind of tether everything off that, you know. Start to move your kick drums around a little bit. Saw your hi-hat notes from 8ths to 16ths. Start to put your open hi-hat accents in there. Go into double time. You know, stretch it out to 200%. Double your tempo. Go to the 8th note shuffle. Jack it up to 70, maybe 72. Remember to go into your send and returns. Use that as spice to spice up the you know, the sound design, if you will. And then again, last but not least, go in and use your velocity spectrum, mainly on your hi-hats and your kick drums, to create a little chaos in your velocity, like humanize it, if you will. definitely some great tips for making a beat. Anyway, Chill Computer Guy, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, comment below, and we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye now.